Hello, my name is Laura, and in this video, I would love to share with you everything that I knit in 2024. So for 2024, I knit a total of 10 finished objects, and 7 of those were garments, and of those 7, 2 were cardigans and 5 were sweaters. One was actually a blouse, but you know, no buttons. And then I knit 3 accessories, 2 of those were hats, and 1 was a pair of socks. And I feel like it's also worth noting that I knit constantly throughout 2024, and so I feel like I should have more to show for it than just 10 finished objects, but I was kind of reflecting back on that and I realized that I started a lot of other projects in 2024 that I made significant progress on, but I just didn't finish them. So for example, I started 3 other garments, 2 of which I knitted all the way through the yoke, and then 1 I knit completely except for a double knit button band. And then I also started I think 4 other accessories that I didn't finish. So I started a lot of projects. I did a lot of knitting last year. And it's also kind of funny to reflect on the fact that if I had just turned my focus to one of those things at a time, then I would have had more finished objects. But honestly, that's not really what I was in the mood to do last year. So I was just knitting for fun, and I honestly think 10 finished objects is a great number for me for last year. So let me show you what most of those look like. Okay, so this is, oh, look on camera. This is everything except for 1 sweater, which I gave away as a gift. And I don't know, holding this, it feels like a lot. This is a lot of knitting, and I am so excited to share all of this with you. So what I'm gonna do is I am almost gonna go in chronological order. I'm gonna try all these on and tell you a little bit about them. Okay, so the first thing that I finished in 2024 is my Porcelain Sweater by Lenholm Semso, also known as Leknit. And I knit this using Sandnes Garn Double Sunday in the colors Putty and Electric Blue. And I love this piece. This was my first ever stranded colorwork project, and honestly, it was a pretty successful first project, if I can say so myself. I was a little hesitant to knit this because it is a drop shoulder design. So what you do is you cast on the back panel, and then you have to knit this first section of colorwork flat, and then you pick up for each of the fronts, and then you have to knit this section of colorwork flat, but from then on you connect in the round, and then everything else is done in the round. And honestly, it was a little, not even challenging, but it was a little frustrating to knit flat. And I'm not even going to talk about all the ends that I still haven't woven in from these colorwork sections. But overall, I think it was a pretty successful first colorwork project. And I think what also helped with that is I'm an English style knitter. And so I literally knit 1 stitch, set the yarn down, pick up the second color, knit that stitch, set the yarn down, and knit like that. And so I was very slow at knitting this and really paid attention to my tension. And I think it shows. I think I'm pretty proud of how this turned out. It's a little tight. I feel like the colorwork is stretching just a little bit on this top section, but everywhere else it's very relaxed, and I think I definitely figured it out past that point. So I absolutely love this sweater. And as far as wearability goes, I would definitely consider this one of my nicer sweaters. And but that doesn't necessarily mean that I don't wear it very often. I just wear it whenever I want to feel particularly nice. So I don't know, I feel like the last time I wore this, I took myself on a little coffee shop date. And for me, that was a special enough occasion to wear this. So, but that also being said, this isn't the first thing I reach for, because it is a statement piece, and not that it matters, but people probably will notice if you see them often enough if you wear this once a week. I tend to wear most of my knits once a week in the winter. So for that reason, I don't wear it all the time, but I have worn it enough to notice that there is a little bit of pilling on the underarms. And honestly, that's to be expected because this is 100% merino wool, and it's very soft, not itchy at all. But it does pill. That's the trade-off for really soft yarn. But it's also not enough to really bother me. I have never shaved any of my knits because I don't own the electric shaver thing. Not yet. I really need to get one. But I've never shaved any of my knits. And honestly, I feel like this looks pretty good, all things considered. So this is my first finished object of 2024. And I think it really kicked off my year to a great start because, I don't know, this was the piece that taught me that I really love beautiful and intricate knits. And yeah, I don't think that's really reflected in most of what I knit last year, but I still really appreciate this. And I feel like one really complicated, pretty piece a year is something that I can definitely see myself knitting. Moving on, my second finished object of 2024 is my April cardigan by PetiteKnit. And I knit this using one strand of Knitting for Olive Merino, which is 100% merino wool. And I held that together with one strand of Knitting for Olive soft silk mohair, which I believe is 70% mohair and 30% silk. And both of those are in the color Dusty Artichoke. And it's absolutely lovely. I'm pretty sure this was my first cardigan I ever knit. And honestly, if you haven't knit a cardigan before, I do think this is a fantastic starting point. The April cardigan has a saddle shoulder construction. It's just like the tiniest little saddle shoulder right here. And then I think that's called a contiguous shoulder after that. It's like a combination of a couple different things because then down here it goes into raglan increases right before you split. And the fit is just stunning. Like I really love fitted cardigans. This will not be my last fitted cardigan, and dare I say maybe not my last April cardigan. It's just super lovely. The pattern does have it as like a little cropped, and so I think I knit this mostly to pattern. I'm a slightly taller person than average, not by much, but I do lengthen most of my sweaters, especially my sleeves. But otherwise I knit this lengthwise to pattern. The one major modification that I made, which is pretty common, is I did a double knit button band instead of I think it's a 1x1 button band that the pattern calls for. And I am very happy with this modification. Now, that being said, a little bit of reflection on knitting this cardigan. I'm actually in the process of knitting a double knit button band on another cardigan right now. I almost have that finished. But I'm starting to realize I think I only have one of these in me per year. Like it just takes so long and it looks amazing. I think it's completely worth it. But yeah, it's a long process. But anyway, the cardigan is absolutely lovely. I found myself wearing this quite a bit when I first finished it because I finished it, let me see. I also have my notebook here. This is how I keep all of my knits, and then I like have the little yarns hanging down there. So anyway, I finished this in March, so I got a lot of use out of this when I first finished it. And that's because I also work in an office environment, so I got to wear this a lot over the summer. But come fall of 2024, I transitioned to working on a construction site, like still in an office type setting, but I am outdoors a lot more now. And so I didn't actually get a lot of use out of this in the fall because it felt too precious to bring to a construction site. But I still wore this a lot in the spring. And I have a feeling that I'm going to start wearing it again, just even if I'm on a construction site, because I just love it that much. And on the yarn, the Knitting for Olive is amazing. The mohair, I will say. So I knit, let's see, 2 garments with mohair this year. And the Knitting for Olive mohair, I do find a little irritating. It's not bad by any means. Like I wouldn't call it scratchy. It's definitely soft to the touch, but sitting on the back of my neck, I do get a little irritated by it. I don't usually wear a tank top under it. I usually wear something that comes all the way up, like a t-shirt. And I find then that's fine. Like it's not itchy on my arms. It's literally just on the back of my neck where it's itchy. But other than that, the yarn is absolutely lovely. And I honestly don't think I've worn it enough for it to show signs of pilling because it is mohair, which I mean, like there's one thing that just came off, but that's it. So far it's worn pretty well, but I also haven't really given this the wear test per se, but it's lovely. And I I don't know. There are a lot of cardigans out there, but I do think I could see myself knitting another April cardigan. And before I show you my next garment, I just wanted to show the one pair of socks that I finished last year. And I started 3 other pair of socks last year and didn't finish anything else. So this is my only finished pair, but it is lovely. This is just a pair of vanilla socks by the Crazy Sock Lady. And I knit this in Twisted Ambitions yarn Sweet Sock in the colorway Tide. And it is just your basic vanilla hand-dyed sock yarn. So I think it's like 75% superwash merino and 25% nylon. And yeah, it's super sweet. I actually do wear my hand knit socks. I don't wear them all the time, so they probably won't show any signs of wear. But I mean, I've worn this at least a few times and it's held up pretty nicely. So yeah, the one modification or 2 modifications that I made to the sock pattern is I did a German twisted cast on and I did 2x2 ribbing instead of the 1x1 ribbing in her video tutorial. So that is my only pair of socks for the year. The next garment that I finished last year is a Monday sweater by PetiteKnit. And I knit this in Hobbii Tweed Delight in the color 1. And this is 85% wool, 10% acrylic, and 5% viscose. Now, this is not a traditional Monday sweater. This has been very heavily modified. And so to quickly show you those modifications, the first of which is instead of using a DK weight yarn, I used a worsted weight yarn for this. And so I knit this on 5mm needles for the main body. And for that reason, I went down 2 sizes in the pattern. I knit a medium. Yeah, I think I knit a medium in pretty much everything that I knit this year, or whatever like the 3rd size usually is in a pattern, but I went down to the 1st size, which I think was the extra small for this. And it came out still very oversized for an extra small, but that was because of the yarn and the needles, but I still love it. And I also did 2x2 ribbing, and I did a split hem on this where the back is just slightly longer than the front. So this has become probably like the 2nd most common sweater that I reach for, but I think that has more to do with the fact that it's just a warmer sweater rather than like the style. So like I mentioned, I'm on a construction site right now, and so I definitely still wear my sweaters, but this one I do not feel precious about at all. Like the Hobbii yarn is a slightly more affordable yarn, and so it's not holding up very well, but I'm also not like being really gentle with this sweater. But I looked at this because I wore this to work like yesterday, I think, and I was looking at the yarn, and I don't know if you can see that, but it has pilled a lot. Like all under the underarms, it's pilled. It's starting to pill like around the waist here. And I think that's because I also like wear a coat over the top and it like rubs against it. But this has not held up super well, but I also have kind of abused this sweater in the past few months. So take that for what you will. It is pretty soft though. Like I never find this to be itchy, like against my neck or anything. I'm sure if I got like a little overheated, it would be, but just wearing it, it's super non-itchy. And yeah, I don't know. It's just a great sweater. It's a basic. I probably would modify the Monday sweater again. Oh, actually, the other modification I made is I moved the raglan like 2 or 3 stitches in on both the front and the back because I didn't want, I don't know, my other Monday sweater that I knit in 2023 had like a really flat neck area here. And this one still kind of has that, like as far as like a square shape goes, but I feel like bringing the raglan increases in just a little bit helped with that. So anyway, I don't know if I would do that piece of it again, but overall, the sweater is gorgeous. Now, the one thing that I think this sweater taught me is that I don't necessarily love a split hem on myself. And I think that's because I have slightly wider hips compared to the rest of me. And so I think the split hem draws attention to that. And it also like kind of flares out at the bottom instead of like if it was connected, it would cinch in almost. And so for that reason, I find it like not my most flattering sweater, but I still wear it. I still love it. And I think if I were to do a split hem again, I would either make it like a lot longer, a lot shorter, or what was the one pattern? Or I've seen some sweaters where it has like decreases along the hem, so it's not like a straight square, like it kind of comes in a little bit. So I feel like I could do one of those, and I would probably find that a little more flattering for my body. But overall, this is my Monday sweater, and I actually knit one more Monday sweater in 2024, but I don't have it with me because it was a Christmas gift for my mom. And so I knit her a Monday sweater in one strand of Knitting for Olive Merino in the color Dusty Dove Blue, and I held that together with one strand of Fyberspates Cumulus in the color Water. And I think the sweater turned out so lovely. I did knit this on 4mm needles. I could have gone up a needle size, but so it was a pretty thick sweater, but it's lovely. It's warm. She says she really loves it, and I'm pretty happy with how it turned out. Honestly, I kind of want one myself in that same yarn combination. Maybe. I really want to get into Surrey this year. Like, I think that might be one of my 2025 knitting resolutions, is to knit myself an entire garment in some capacity of Surrey alpaca. But anyway, my mom loves her sweater. I knit that sweater in, like, I started the yoke in an extra large, and then I did the depth of this as a 2XL. And once I finished that, I measured the body, and the overall sweater came out to be about a size large. I think it was 1 centimeter bigger than what the size large is in the pattern. So my gauge was pretty tight on that. I don't think that it's a good representation of what a 2XL looks like. Actually, I held her sweater against mine, and like this is pretty oversized for me, but this was an extra small on 5mm needles, and I knit a 2XL on 4mm needles for her, and it came out essentially the same size. So the gauge got a little weird, but overall, she put it on Christmas Day, and it fit her great. So that's all that really matters. And I think if I knit one for myself, I might go up to a 4.5mm if I'm using that same yarn combination. But at any rate, her sweater turned out lovely. I'm super proud of that one. And yeah, she's really happy with it. So those are my 2 Monday sweaters from 2024. The next thing that I finished in 2024 is my Cardigan number 9 by My Favourite Things Knitwear. And I knit this using one strand of Blue Sky Fibers Woolstok worsted in the color 1315 Red Rock, and that is 100% fine Highland wool. And then I held that together with one strand of Isager's Silk Mohair, which is 75% kid mohair, 25% silk, and that's in the color 32, which I believe is just called Red. So, where to start? This cardigan is most definitely my most precious knit from 2024, and I think that has everything to do with the mohair. It just feels so soft, so silky, and luxurious. This was a very expensive cardigan to make. I did get to use a gift card for the Blue Sky Fibers yarn, so all I had to pay for was the mohair, and even that was still almost $100. But I think it was worth it, and it is so, so lovely. But getting into the actual pattern, the cardigan number 9 is a saddle shoulder construction, and even though the April cardigan also started with a tiny saddle shoulder, this one is very noticeable. And the saddle portion itself is pretty wide, and it honestly makes for a pretty good fit. But the first thing I'll say about this type of cardigan is I don't know if saddle shoulders are for me. I appreciate the April cardigan because it's tiny and you can't really see it, but because I already have kind of wide shoulders, I feel like having a line right here in the front draws attention to that. And so I don't necessarily consider this my most flattering garment that I knit last year. So I'm pretty hesitant to knit like a giant saddle shoulder again, at least anytime soon. But it's still really cozy, and I honestly call this my old man cardigan because the red is just what I picture an old man would wear. but I love it. I think the yarn really makes it luxurious and it balances out any drawbacks I might have about the construction or how it looks on me. It just feels so nice to wear that I wear it all the time. On the yarn a little, oh, actually, one more thing on the pattern. I only made one modification, and that was to not include the double knit portion before the collar right here. And that's mostly because I didn't really like the look of it. But now that I'm here, I do see how that could have added a bit more structural integrity to the cardigan because it is stretching out just a little bit. But that's okay. I still like how it looks. And yeah, so other than that, I didn't make any modifications. On the yarn, the Isager silk mohair is so soft, so fluffy. This shed so much while I was knitting on it. And even while I wear this, I just find little red bits of mohair everywhere, but it is very soft. And that being said, I still find mohair to be a little itchy. And this is definitely less itchy than the Knitting for Olive mohair. It's a little softer, but it's still mohair, and I do still find it a little itchy. So I wear things under this so it doesn't necessarily touch the back of my neck and my shoulders and stuff like that. But on my arms, it's fine, not a big deal. And I see just the faintest amount. I wouldn't even call this pilling. It's just like the mohair is like slightly thicker in some sections, which I guess is what mohair looks like when it pills. But I've worn this a fair amount, like under jackets. Yeah, I guess it's pilling a little bit. And it's held up pretty nicely. So I absolutely love it. I really want to knit with more Woolstok worsted this year. I just think it's a great yarn. It was super fun to work with, and I absolutely love it. So this is my old man cardigan. I think she's precious, and I love the toggle buttons. It's super cute. I wear this anytime I need to feel cozy and a little studious, maybe. I don't know. But this is my cardigan number 9. All right, and now for my only summer knit that I finished in 2024. I started one other summer knit, but that one is sadly still not finished. But this is the only summer knit that I finished last year, and this is my blouse number 2 by My Favourite Things Knitwear. And I knit this using a Hobbii Lobby brand yarn called Yarn Bee Bamboo-tiful in the color white. And this yarn is 50% cotton and 50% viscose from bamboo. And this is what she looks like. So it's basically where you cast on a circle and then you increase it, like you increase in such a way that it creates a line down each of the shoulders. And then you knit the front and back sections flat, and then you join in the round, pick up stitches for the sleeves, knit those in the round. And I would say that my favorite feature of the design is it has fake seams going down the side and under the arms. And so that's what that looks like. I don't know if you can see, and then kind of coming down the side here. And it's so soft and so lovely. I really, really enjoyed working with this yarn. I don't often knit with summer fibers. This was really my first dive into it, and it was a pretty good experience. The yarn is super silky, I would say. Really smooth to work with. I did find that I had a little bit of hand pain while working on this, but I don't think that was just the yarn. I think it was the combination of this being a textured knit in addition to it being like a summer fiber that doesn't have a lot of stretch to it. But I got it done, and it's super pretty. The one weird thing about this blouse would be the sizing. And so I actually cast this on when the pattern was first released, I think in like August of 2023. And I cast on a size medium, and I knit the entire body only to then try it on and realize that it was way too big. Like it was beyond oversized. It wouldn't have looked very good. And so I frogged the entire thing and restarted in an extra small, I believe. And it still came out pretty oversized. And I think that is just the yarn, and my gauge was still pretty on point. So I really think it was just the yarn stretching out. Like it's just the nature of it being a little heavier, and that's okay. I think this is super lovely. I did unfortunately finish this at the tail end of summer, so I didn't get a lot of opportunity to wear it, but this summer I am really excited to get some wear out of it. That being said, I feel kind of two things. Like, I feel torn in two directions about this blouse, which is, on the one hand, this took so long to make that it feels very precious and that it should be like for fancy and like special occasions. But then on the other hand, the yarn is also like pretty cheap. And the first time I wore it, like I was wearing black dress pants and my black dress pants were just covered in white fiber. And so I feel, I don't know, like it's a little bit conflicting with how pretty and elegant the blouse is compared to the yarn that I used. But because of that, I think it's actually just going to encourage me to wear it more and kind of elevate more casual situations. I don't know if I'm making any sense right now, but essentially, I don't want to be afraid to wear this because I put so much work into it. So I think I'm going to get more wear out of it this summer. This is maybe not exactly my style. I definitely love long sleeve summer tops. I'm not really a camisole kind of person where it's like just a tank top. Like, I definitely appreciate having a sleeve in some capacity. And so for that reason, it's my style. But I don't know if it like quite fits into my normal wardrobe. So I'm going to be a little more careful about that going into 2025. But this was still a really, really beautiful garment to knit. And yeah, I think I'm going to get a lot more wear out of it this coming summer. Before I show you the last garment that I knit in 2024, I'm going to show you the two other accessories that I finished, and they are both Oslo hats by PetiteKnit. Now, my first Oslo hat I knit in 2023, and I knit it in a size small, and it was just a bit too small. So essentially, all I did was reknit my first Oslo hat in a larger size, and I used more yarn. And that yarn is left over from my Porcelain Sweater because this is Sandnes Garn Double Sunday in the color Electric Blue. And yeah, it's super lovely, super pretty, wear it all the time. So yeah, that is my first Oslo hat. Okay, and my second Oslo hat, I knit from a frogged Musselburgh hat. I spent so much time at the beginning of 2024 knitting this Musselburgh hat, only for it to come out like super baggy and oversized, and I didn't feel like reknitting it in a smaller size. So what I did is I frogged the whole thing and I cast on an Oslo hat. And so the colorful strand that you see with all the little bits in it, this is Miss Lamotte. And I think it's in a sock yarn. It's a sport weight sock yarn. I can't remember specifically what it's called, but then the color is Dutch Still Life. And I held this with one strand of Fyberspates Cumulus, and this was so I could test out this yarn before making my mom's Christmas sweater in this yarn. And I love it. I reach for this hat so often because, as I said, I'm outside a lot more for work now, and this is just so warm and so cozy, and I absolutely love it. I think I need another hat in Surrey alpaca. It's so soft. I don't find it scratchy at all. And I absolutely love it. So that is my second Oslo hat and my last accessory for 2024. And the last garment that I knit for myself in 2024 is my Ingrid Sweater by PetiteKnit. And I knit this in Knitting for Olive Heavy Merino in the color Pearl Gray. And this has, without a doubt, become the sweater that I reach for the most. I am so proud of how this turned out. And I'm pretty sure it has more to do with the yarn than it does the pattern, but both together are just absolutely lovely. So on the pattern first, as I said, this is the Ingrid Sweater. I wasn't super convinced that I liked this pattern when it first came out, and so I sat on it for like a year or two. I don't know, I sat on it for a while, wasn't convinced, and then finally, kind of on a whim, I just cast this on. And it is a drop shoulder construction, and so you knit the back panel, you pick up for the front, join in the round, all the good things. And it's pretty nice. So this is an all-over textured pattern. This is my first textured garment that I finished. I started one other cardigan that I didn't finish last year, but yeah, this was my first time really doing texture, and it was a lot of fun. But a lot of people describe this as being very potato chippy and really wanting to go finish the next section, and I honestly did not find that to be the case for me. Like, I think I was pretty ready to be done knitting this by the time I got to the second sleeve. I was just like chugging through it, trying to get it done. But now that it's done, I really like it. I don't think I would make a second Ingrid sweater just because it is such a statement piece, and there are plenty of other textured drop shoulder patterns out there. But I think for a first kind of toe dip into this kind of sweater, I think this is really, really lovely. But yeah, the pattern is super cool. The one thing that's like not my favorite about it is in this like lattice cable section, it does kind of shrink in more so than the other sections, but that's fine. I don't often stand like a T, so just when I'm wearing it, it is super relaxed, super nice. I love it. And the one, I guess, like modification that I made to the pattern is that I did have to go up a needle size. And so I went up to a 4.5mm needle because this is a worsted weight yarn. And I didn't measure it, but I still feel like it came out to be a size medium or something like that. Like I think my gauge would have just been too tight overall. And so I was able to hit gauge-ish with a 4.5mm needle. But let's be honest, the real star of the show here is the yarn, and that's the Heavy Merino by Knitting for Olive. I love this yarn. It has easily become my favorite yarn at this point. I haven't tried a lot of yarns, I'll throw that out there. I tend to stick with something that I know I'm going to love, so I am going to still try to branch out in 2025, but for 2024, this was a success. It is not like a soft yarn. It definitely feels like, I don't know if crunchy is the right word, but it definitely feels like it's got a little more oomph to it, but it's not itchy. And I find this to be super duper warm, even with the eyelets all over it. And yeah, it's just lovely, and I reach for it. I have probably worn this more than I've probably worn this definitely more than my April cardigan and porcelain sweater combined, and maybe throw in one other thing. I don't know. Like, I have worn this so much, even though I only finished this in November. Like, people are probably sick of seeing me in this just because I wear it so much. So I need to knit something else in this yarn immediately. That's the only thing I'm learning from this. But the color is also super lovely. I don't know if you can see, but the pearl gray has like little bits of like a purpley blue kind of in it. So it's not just a pure gray. It's a little bit like flecked with blue, which I think is really pretty. It adds depth to the color. Gray isn't necessarily like my best color. I mostly just wanted to try out this yarn. And but yeah, I'm also not really one to wear colors or not wear colors that do or don't look good on me. I just kind of wear what I want, and I want to wear this. So it is definitely my favorite thing that I knit last year. And that's for a combination of it feels super high quality, but I don't feel like I have to be super precious about it either, because it is holding up really, really well. There is some pilling already, just a little bit, because it is a merino wool. But for how much I've worn this, there's like basically no pilling. So super happy with how this turned out. I think it's absolutely gorgeous. And that is everything that I knit in 2024. I feel like 10 things is a pretty good number for me. I probably could finish more if I focused on one thing at a time instead of having a few different whips going. But honestly, knitting is my fun hobby. I do really want to add more things to my wardrobe this year. Like it's been really good being able to have a couple years to sit with a few of my knits and recognize what I do and don't wear. So I'll take that into this coming year as maybe I'll be a little more mindful, sometimes maybe not so, a little more mindful about the things that I do choose to knit. But overall, I think it was a very, very successful year of knitting, and I'm super happy with how everything turned out. So thank you so much for watching. Please let me know if you knit any of these items or with any of these yarns this past year, and let me know what you think if you've had a similar or very different experience, and maybe let me know what your favorite thing was or the biggest lesson that you learned from your knitting in 2024. Thank you so much for watching, and I hope you've had a fantastic start to your 2025 so far, and I hope you have a wonderful year of knitting ahead of you. So thank you so much. Bye.